Boker Or, Bekiim Bahalacha 4, day 89, page 223. We are on the preface. Okay? This is now going to be the preface of Siman 31, okay, which is talking about Shabbat and Yom Tov. So the Gemara Masechet Menachot, okay, offers two different sources for the halacha that there's no mitzvah of tefillin on Shabbat or Yom Tov. Rabbi Yosef Galilei derives this halacha from the pasuk, yeah, v'shamarta et hachukah azon moadah miyamim yamima, yeah, which means you have to observe it in its time from day to day. So when it says yamim yamima, it excludes nighttime, and therefore it's also going to exclude Shabbat and Yom Tov. Rabbi Akiva, however, taught that this pasuk does not refer to tefillin at all. Instead, it refers to the mitzvah of the Korban Pesach. So according to his teachings, we are exempt from the mitzvah of tefillin on Shabbat and Yom Tov because the Torah is called an ot, right? Meaning the tefillin is called an ot, right? Which is basically a symbol of our allegiance to the Torah and mitzvot. On Shabbat and Yom Tov, such a symbol is unnecessary, since the Torah labels Shabbat an ot as well. So meaning, if Shabbat is an ot and tefillin is an ot, you don't need an ot on another ot. You don't need a symbol on another symbol. Rashi pointed out, the pasuk says, Ki ot hi beni uvenechem, right? What is the sign between me and you? So when we keep Shabbat and Yom Tov, it also shows that there's an allegiance between us and Hashem, and therefore tefillin are unnecessary. Regarding Yom Tov, however, Rashi brought no pasuk that it's considered an ot. Yom Tov, but is also called an ot. The Pri Megadim suggested that the pasuk is when it says vayu leotot ulmuadim. The word signs refers to the days of Shabbat and Yom Tov, which are basically like special days, which refer to Rosh Chodesh. The Rosh explained that Yom Tov is considered an ot, but only because it's a day when we refrain from milacha. After all, in Chol Moed, we're allowed to do milacha. Yeah, the days of Chol Moed are also considered an ot. On Pesach, it's because it's forbidden to eat chametz on those days, and on Sukkot, because it's forbidden to eat a meal outside of the Sukkah. By adding, right, the word only, right, to the Rosh's explanation, it turns out that he agreed that any day on which milacha is forbidden is considered an ot, even if there's no special mitzvah of chametz or sukkah. For this reason, Shavuot is also going to be exempt. Meaning, Shavuot, you don't have a concept of whether it's going to be of, how do you call this, of the sukkah or of chametz, but it doesn't matter. Shavuot is also going to be called an ot. Rabbeinu Menachem HaMeiri, he explained that Chol HaMoed is considered an ot since many of the forms of the melacha are forbidden on those days, coupled with the fact that a korban musaf is also brought. The Ritva explained that every Yom Tov is also considered an ot, right? Just like it was Shabbat, based on the fact that Shabbat is also included in Ele Moadei Hashem, right? These are the Hashem special times, okay? And the Piskei Reed also agreed with this explanation as well. That means they're special times, so therefore it's an ot. Harav Moshe ben Yosef Tarani, he comes and he says a number of explanations. One of them is that the Torah refers to the original Pesach as an ot. And since all the holidays are because of Pesach, and they're all listed together in Emor, so therefore they're all an ot. Another right reason is that the Torah refers to Shabbat, an ot, twice. Why does it say that it's an ot, a symbol, twice? So he says the extra reference is for Yom Tov. A third explanation is that the Torah says, Ach et Shabbatotai tishmoru. You have to observe my days of Shabbat. And again, it says, Shabbatotai, my Shabbatot. So therefore, it's not that there's many Shabbatot, it's that the Yom Tov is also like a Shabbat, and therefore you have to, it's in plural for it to include the Yom Tov. The Sefer Amani states that since we observe Shabbat and Yom Tov in the manner prescribed by the Torah, we already demonstrate our allegiance to Hashem and its Torah, and therefore you don't need tefillin. The Piskei Reed also, or there's the Piskei Riyaz, sorry, also he subscribed to this explanation as well. Fine. So now, what about, is there going to be a prohibition or not? The Shulchan Aruch, he actually rules that besides the fact that we are exempt from the mitzvah of tefillin on Shabbat and Yom Tov, it's forbidden to wear tefillin in those days. Meaning it's not only that you just don't need to wear tefillin on those days, zasur lasim tefillin on those days. He added that if someone would wear them, you'd be guilty of belittling the status of the holy days. Meaning he's disgracing those days. So he says the Levush added that this is a terrible sin. Yeah, he says, since he demonstrates that he rejects, right, the status of the oath that according to these days, he's therefore considered a rebel against Hashem. Although the Torah makes no hint that it is forbidden to wear tefillin on these days, teaching only that it's not necessary. It's ought to be self-understood that by wearing tefillin, he insults the Shabbat and the Yom Tov, and that's what he's doing. So Maran and the Bet Yosef, he said to the Zohar HaKadosh, okay? And he explains that Hashem dresses the holy nation of Israel with a special set of spiritual tefillin on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So this is now like a spiritual, right, tefillin. This is likened, let's say, okay. He says, this is likened to a king who wished to provide his personal servant special protection. And so the instructed servant, right, to imprint the king's likeness on his signet ring. He told the servant, as long as you have the signet ring on your finger, everyone in the world will be afraid of you. As the time went on, the king's love for the servant increased, and he gave the servant an official stamp, right, bearing the king's likeness. The servant then took off the ring, right, with the likeness that he originally fashioned and replaced it with a new stamp. Now, if the servant would react by saying, I don't need your stamp since I already have the signet ring, so therefore there's no doubt that the king would now come and he would behead him. He would kill him, right? In the same way, we must not reject the signet ring of Hashem that he prepared for us personally, right, in favor of the simple signet ring, which is going to be the tefillin. Meaning, the Shabbat and the Yom Tov is a higher level, and therefore, since it's going to be a higher level, if we're going to want the tefillin, which is going to be a lower level than the Shabbat and Yom Tov, so we're belittling the kavod of the king, and therefore we could actually be chayav mitah. So the Samag, the Seven Mitzvot Gadol, explain the fact that we do not wear tefillin on Shabbat and Yom Tov based on the fact that there are three mitzvot that serve to testify our allegiance to Hashem: Brit Milah, Shabbat, and Tefillin. The Torah therefore refers to each of these mitzvot as an oath. Each Jew needs to have two otot, meaning two witnesses, to testify his allegiance. During the weekdays, he needs the ever-present mitzvah of Brit Milah and the mitzvah of Tefillin. And if he fails to wear the tefillin, it is as if that he presents only one witness. So therefore, again, he's going to be excommunicated by Shamayim. On Shabbat and Yom Tov, it in itself is a witness. And therefore, every Jew has two witnesses even without the tefillin. Is there an isur of Bal Tosif? So it says here, the Rashba ruled that if someone wears tefillin on Shabbat and Yom Tov intending to fulfill the mitzvah on that day, he's guilty of Bal Tosif, adding to the Torah's mitzvot. In fact, this applies on the second day of Yom Tov as well, because even though it's not Yom Tov itself, it's also going to be prohibited. So therefore, you're not allowed to add also on that.